Welcome to this webinar about the simulator exercise database that we will talk about. And the ad hoc working group working with this is it's me from Chalmers University in Sweden. It's Pim from the Netherlands, Robert from Denmark, David from Croatia, and Gamini from Australia. So we are the working group. And we start from the STCW requirements on the use of simulators. In section A112, there is a brief introduction of what the training procedure for using simulators in training of seafarers. And in STCW, it's clearly that the trainees should be briefed beforehand. They should have time for familiarization. The exercise should be good and effective. And in the last point 7, there is that simulator exercises are designed and tested so as to ensure their suitability for the specified training objectives. And at least we got some remarks from EMSA in Europe regarding this tested. How do we prove that we have tested simulator exercises? The STCW requirement is that we should have designed and tested exercises. The students should be briefed beforehand, and they should be have appropriate exercise stimuli, and they should be effectively debriefed. So that's the STCW requirements. But we also know when we develop new exercises that it takes a lot of time to make a very good and complex simulator exercise. And we also know that if we discuss with other instructors, then we could get an even better exercise. It's good to share experience. So why don't we share exercises today more than we do? If we start with the receiver of an exercise, if I should send out an exercise to all of you, why should you share that or use that? The first question is, how do I know the exercise is of high quality? You don't know if I just send it out. Then it takes some time to understand an unknown exercise. And if you don't know the developer, then should you trust this? Is it a good exercise or not? And for the sender, who maybe spent 100 hours to developing a good exercise, why should you just send it to everyone else? So when we start thinking about this, we thought that the matter of high quality, that could be handled by a peer review quality process. To understand an unknown exercise, if we have a standardized exercise description, that would make it easier. And to know other developer, if we have regular meetings and instructor camps, then we could get to know each other. I'll come back to this. And for the sender, why should you send an exercise to everyone else? Maybe to be part of a community, to get credit as a developer, and maybe some awards. Maybe some of you would like to be developer of the year or something like that. Maybe that motivates some of you to share. So this is our starting point for this concept. So the SimEd, Simulator Exercise Database concept, is about cooperation between MET institutions by sharing simulator exercises. And there is a small asterisk, and that means that, of course, we could start sharing simulator exercises, but we could use exactly the same procedures to share assignments, presentations, digital lectures, quizzes, or whatever. And we need some kind of peer-reviewed quality assurance process. I'll come back to this a little bit later. Also, a structured documentation of exercises or whatever we want to share. And then we think we need a web application. It should be easy to search and download exercises and to handling the review process. And we think it's important to meet, discuss, help each other, physically and digital meetings to exchange knowledge and experience between simulator instructors. So for a university or institution to join this database or concept, what are the advantages? And of course, there is an advantage to get access to a wide array of quality assured simulator exercises. You could save a lot of time by not developing everything by your own. You could get some help with this quality assure, to quality assure your exercises, the requirements of the STCW, and then your simulator instructors could have opportunities to get experience and knowledge from other in simulator instructors. So when we thought about this, we see a lot of positive things, but what are the requirements? We think, first of all, that it should be for members of the IAMU. And then if everyone would like to download exercises, then of course we need to upload as well. So we said that you need to upload at least 3 exercises to be part of it, just to start this to feed the database from the beginning. And then of course we need reviewers. So we have said that to appoint at least 3 reviewers to be able to handle, to review all the new exercises. So that is maybe the basic concepts. And I think you have a lot of questions, so I will go into some details before we open up the Q&A session. First of all, we need some kind of web interface to search for approved exercises. A web interface is not developed yet. We have some ideas. We have been talking to software developers, but we have not developed the web interface. But a web interface to search, download, maybe comment, rate, and nominate for awards. But of course, you should be able to add exercise, and that will go to a review process that will be handled in this this software. We could have news, and of course we could handle the administration about the database in this. So a web interface is really important for easy access to all those databases. But when you download a new exercise or you search for an exercise, could give some parameters, and then you need to find out, is this what I want to do? Then we have an exercise description standardized for every exercise is uploaded. And we tried this in the project, and we have shared some exercises between our 5 institutions. And so we find out that we should have an overview, easy overview in the beginning of description, a summary, maybe some keywords, level, is it on introductional level, operation level, management level, or whatever. A category code if you take a navigation exercise, for example, is it maneuvering? Is it a Colreg exercise? Is it navigation in restricted visibility? What is the main purpose? So we have some category codes, and then you need to know if it's a 20-minute exercise or a 3-hour exercise. So the time of it. So then you get an overview of the exercise. And of course, there would need to be more detailed description of the exercise for the instructor. And then there is a participant manual to be able to brief the participants beforehand to get an overview. This is what you need to prepare, maybe a route planning or read some chapters in the textbook or whatever. So by this standardized exercise description, then you could get this overview, get to know the exercise, see if this is something that I could use. But before the exercise is approved, we need to go through a review process. And as you can see on the right-hand side, that's an overview of the process, review process, and you can see there is a lot of different steps. And we have gone through this several times just to optimize this review process. But in short, we start with, say, this is a double-blind peer review process. Double-blind, that means that the developer of the exercise don't know who is the reviewer, and the reviewer don't know who has created this. Just as many scientific journals where you don't know who is the author of that paper. You will not know who is the developer of this exercise. And peer review, that means that there is no authority or something like that approving your exercise. It's a peer review. That means that we, as colleagues, as peers, are looking at each other's exercises and help to improve quality. We help each other to improve quality. That's the meaning of this, not that someone is better than anyone else. Together we could create high quality exercises. Then when you upload, then there will be first a documentary review. One reviewer checking the language, the format, is everything okay? Is the template used? Things like that. Short review. But if everything is okay, then it goes to a technical review. And we think that it should be 3 reviewers. And we have said that first you have some kind of startup evaluation. Could you start the exercise in a good way? Then you look into the documentary evaluation to see if the description for the instructor and for the participant is okay. And then you look into the content to evaluate that, and then professionality evaluation, just to see if this is an exercise that, where the description and the stimuli in the exercise are in line with each other. And then each reviewer say an approval, improvement needed, or reaction. And then it could go back to the developer to develop the exercise or the documentation, and then maybe approval in the next step. Reaction, I think that will be very rare, more of improvement needed. But of course, there will be, you need to have some kind of that option as well. So that is the review process in overview. And we have developed some review guidelines. This is just an example for the technical review, professionality evaluation, where we have 4 criteria. The first one, for example, is the structure, elements, and content of the exercise in general, prepared in good maritime practice and in line with the exercise level. And here the reviewer could add some comment to the left if it's below the norm. That means suggestions for improvements, or to the right if it's above the norm, just to say that this is really good. So there could be comments if it's below or above the norm. And then we have said that it should be an overall assessment. Is this a score from 1 to 5, just to find out the level of it. So that will be the reviewer's mission, to get the exercise, run it, look into some details, and you could see, for example, the second criteria is directly from STCW code A112, paragraph 6. So as possible to shipboard tasks and practices as possible, for example. So when the review is done, then we have this approval or improvement needed in most cases. If we, for example, have an exercise, it's about ship maneuvering in shallow water, it's for a navigation simulator, it's at management level, and it's a 75 minutes long exercise. A very nice exercise. This one is developed for Wärtsilä MT-Pro 5000, and the area used is Gothenburg, for example. Then the developer upload this, got this approved, and maybe someone else say that, okay, but this exercise is really good, but maybe we could translate it into the Hong Kong area. We could do exactly the same exercise, but in another area. Then we could see that as a translation, just like a book that is translated into different languages. Here is one exercise translated into another area, or maybe to Kongsberg KC or any other simulator manufacturer. This means that, for example, if you have an exercise for assessment of students, and when they have maybe failed one or twice, then you could do exactly the same exercise, but in another area, for example. So they don't pass just because they know the area so well. Maybe the assessment is that they should plan for a new area, for example. If someone else translate this, or if we translate between different simulator systems, if you maybe change from one simulator manufacturer to another, it's not so often, but if you do that, then maybe exercises could be in different systems. And I think we could do exactly the same for models in the engine room simulator, for example. You do a good startup exercise in one model, and then maybe you translate that into another model. The same objectives for the students. So the original exercise could be translated to other simulator systems or areas or models. That's one thing we are thinking about. I talked a little bit about a community, to be part of this community of simulator instructors. And we believe in building a strong community. So we think that there should be some digital meetings where we could discuss or show good examples of how to develop exercises or how to do different things related to simulators. So digital meetings, we have already a LinkedIn group. It's called IMU SimEd, and you could join that already today. And then we think that there should be some simulator instructor camps. And maybe your first question is, what is a simulator instructor camp? So that will be the next slide. A simulator instructor camp, that is when simulator instructors from different MET institutions meet physically together. And during that meeting, they could test and develop exercises together. So it's not just a work. It's a workshop, not for presentations only, not a conference. That way, it should be hand-on exercise development. And in that way, they could share experience and insight and develop cross-institutional network just to get to know each other. And we tested that in Svendborg in Denmark in June this year. Simulator instructors from Chalmers and from Australia. And so instructors from Australia was digital attendance, but we find out that we need to have everyone physically attendant. So I think that in the future, hopefully we could have simulator instructor camps different places in the world, so it's not will be too long travel to do that. But it was really good, and the simulator instructors get a lot of new inspiration. They met colleagues, and then we start to develop exercises together, and it's much easier to share and talk to each other when you get to know each other. So that is, I think, really a good way for the simulator instructors. But this database could also help other MET institutions in developing countries. We have, for example, IAMU peer-assisted evaluation schemes in the Philippines and in Kenya, and we have trying to help South Africa with their education. And I think it could be very good for the quality of global shipping and maritime education and training if those developing countries could have a database of high quality simulator exercises to use from the beginning. I think we could help a lot of MET institutions to get take a step in this qualities there. So and I think that is, if IAMU chose to help a country, if we then could provide some simulator exercises of high quality, that could help them as well. There is, of course, some important topics to think about. One is intellectual property. Who is the owner of this exercise? How could it be used? We are thinking of this, of course, and we have also included legal departments at our university to discuss this, how to proceed with this. And of course, there will be terms of use that are very clear before we start this exercise. We also need to prevent corrupt files, viruses, and things like that. So if you upload or download exercises, of course, we need antivirus checks, IT security, and things like that. So we are looking at technical solutions as well. And of course, there will be some costs for developing web interface and database. And I have found an internal fund for Chalmers University to fund the development of a first version, just to have something to look at. But then, of course, there will be some kind of cost, and hopefully IAMU budget could include this. As a summary, so our aim is to fulfill the STCW requirements, increase quality, save time. And the concept to do that is a peer review quality process, standardized exercise description, a web interface for easy access, and building a simulator instructor community. So we will send out a questionnaire, as Giuseppe said, but just to answer or try to answer some addition. Last question is, will the database be used? That is, of course, a main question. And we see some positive things. We've fulfilled the STCW requirements, increased quality, time saving, inspiration, community. I think credits and awards could be motivating, and it will not cost anything for a MET institution. The negative thing is it will take time to review. We need to have reviewers doing this review, otherwise it will not work. And of course, there is a question, will you as a simulator instructor use another simulator exercise developed by someone else in your education? Is there a willingness to do that or not? So that's maybe the main questions, positive and negative. And we in the working group are, of course, convinced that this is a very good idea. We have tried it for a year, and we would like to expand it to all member universities at IAMU. So that's why we need to know, what do you think about this? So we will send out a questionnaire directly after this meeting. It will just take 3 or 4 minutes to answer that, but it's to find out the interest of developing this concept and use the database. And we would like to have your response before December 15. So that means what is it, 3 or 4 weeks to do that. So you could have a discussion internally at your university and then answer the response. And of course, the web address will be sent out, but it's also in the presentation if someone would like to look at it or find it that way. So that was a brief introduction to this concept, and of course there are some questions, and Yusuke will facilitate this session.
Thank you, Fredrik, and maybe we will go ahead to take some questions from the participants. And thank you, Alexandro. You already raised your hand, so that way maybe we can ask the participant to raise your hand and also to ask your questions to the Fredrik and the member of this working group. So I would like to invite Alexander to ask your questions, and please unmute your microphone, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, or for me it's good morning today, everyone. And Fredrik, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for allowing me to ask questions. And I have quite a list of questions. So I guess I will start with the first on the list. Will it be possible to get a link to a recording of this webinar to share with other colleagues afterwards?
Yes, I already started recording, so hopefully this recording will be kept in our database. Then that recorded video will be available on in our website. So.
I see. Okay, thank you. Perhaps maybe there will be presentation available afterwards, or the document. Fredrik shared with me one document beforehand, so it was very useful to look at it. And maybe there is a shorter version or something that we can share with colleagues to spread this information. So the second question is different software, different simulation software, of course, because one thing is different subject matters such as engineering or like IGF bunkering, or even different simulators for deck officers. But even if we talk for the similar subject matter as navigation, for instance, then the problem is that even when institutions have the same software, they have different maps and different models, different areas and different models. So the concepts, similar concepts of exercises are not always compatible. And with this regard, the question is, maybe it's also necessary to incorporate some sort of walkthrough in when exercise is being described, because sometimes you cannot just upload the file, or you cannot open it, neither for review or for using. I mean, we can have good reviewers who can review the navigational exercise itself, but they cannot launch it to try it because they have Wärtsilä and the exercise is on Kongsberg. So in this respect, maybe some videos or screenshots of like critical points of the exercise with a path track, for instance, may be useful for a reviewer to assess the quality and also save time for reviewer, instead of like doing all like 1.5 hours of exercise to understand it, just to have like some sort of quick review. Of course, it takes more time from the developer to create such a video and screenshots. That's the second question / suggestion.
Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, we have thought about this. And the first, there will be a matching process between when you upload a new exercise, we have to find 3 reviewers, and we would like to see if they have the same simulator system. So if it's a Kongsberg exercise, then we try to find 3 reviewers having Kongsberg a Kongsberg simulator, for example. But if that will be a problem, and maybe will be manageable for Wärtsilä and Kongsberg, which had a big market share, but of course, there are some smaller manufacturers as well, and maybe not smaller, but not so many of the IMU members using it. That means that it could be difficult to find reviewers. So that's one reason that we would like to have as many reviewers as possible in the system, just to be able to do that. And if there will be some problem, maybe we need to have that, include that extra work for the developer to provide some screenshots and things like that. But in this other hand, the exercise description should be so clear that the instructor know what will happen and what should happen in the exercise, and maybe that could be enough in some way to look at that exercise from a reviewer's perspective as well. So, but really good suggestions, and we need to handle that, and that's not, we are not, everything is not developed, so every suggestions are welcome, of course, at this point.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Maybe on the first stage, when of course the legal aspects will be decided and the conditions for use and sharing will be developed, can be just use of some shared cloud space with documentation and like known structure of folders. I mean, it will restrict the search, of course, a little bit, but it will make the database available faster, at least.
Yeah, we have, of course, thought about that as well, because it's difficult to develop, or take some time at least. The problem is that to handle the review process in a good way, that means that the review process need to be handled in some kind of system as well. And then if we say, for example, that we have 100, 200 exercises, I hope that will be maybe not tomorrow, but one day. And then, of course, it will be, if you have this folder with 200 exercises and try to find that, it will be difficult. Then you would like to have some kind of search engine for that, when you could give some parameters. I'm looking for a cargo handling exercise, and it should be loading of a tanker vessel, and then you get a list of 8 different exercises, for example. So and it's not so difficult to do that kind of search engine if we have some limited numbers of parameters. So I think that will be manageable. I think the review process is the one that is more difficult to develop, and so we need to do that as easy as possible for the reviewers by emails or reminders or whatever. It should be easy to be a reviewer. That's the main focus of this software.
Thank you. I agree. Setting up this review system is, it's complicated for software engineers, and it will require testing. Okay, so couple of more questions, and I'm finished with that. So would it be possible, or maybe there is an intention to develop the example of perfect exercise? Maybe not perfect, but the field example of the form, so other members can see the standard, this grade A description of the exercise.
Yeah, and we try to do that in this. Before it was a working group or ad hoc working group, it was a project, organizational development project. So when we start to share with our 5 institutions, then we try to do the perfect description. But then we know more about it, we learned a lot, and then we changed the description and so on. So of course we could try to do a really good, and maybe the first exercise would be that we try out what is the best way, or give good examples. But we have some, and we just need to adjust them a little bit to the new template, and then we could provide that as well. So when we started, but they have not been quality reviewed in a perfect way. It has been more of a discussion with the developer, often in the same room. So it has not been this double blind review. And so we need to go through all the exercises again when we start building this database, so we get high quality from the beginning. I think that is important.
I see. Thank you. The last one. Would it be possible to share the link? You mentioned that the link for the questionnaire will be shared, but would it be also possible to share the link for the LinkedIn group? Because I tried to type it in to find it on LinkedIn, but it wasn't successful.
Okay, yeah, we try to share that as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Are there any other questions from the participants, or of course you can write the question into the chat box, but yes, I have a question from the Patrick. So Patrick, go ahead, please unmute your microphone and ask questions. Patrick.
You are still muted, Patrick.
Hi, I'm Patrick from Benin Republic. Unfortunately, I studied in Morocco, and I was very interested in your webinar because for my captain license, I was working with Captain Hadi on how we can keep continuing professional development at sea by sharing exercise mainly on simulator. So my main concern is that that's a great only for international association member university, but for us working at sea or at pilotage like me, we would like, I have been working on a project, we would like a standard that will allow us just from outside to share some situation that we have, and it could be helpful for people they are still studying at school before they come on the job market. So about the sharing, there are some technical issue, as you said. Just an insight I want to, is it possible, since we have different kind of simulators, even virtual simulators, real reality simulators, to have a standards? As you are an association, international association, could you work on a standards that will allow everybody to share, to give an insight, even from sea or from German side? That's all.
Yeah, I think that we should keep it within the IAMU, but of course there could be other one having cooperation with the Met institution as a member and develop good exercises from what's happening in the real world to get some maybe incidents and do some simulators exercises regarding to that. So that cooperation, I think that is really good to have, but I think that we should have only member universities could access this database, and then we could discuss in the future how to handle the database. But I think that will be more easy for the intellectual property who owns this one and so on. So I think that we will start in that way, but of course it could be a discussion in the future, and maybe up to the IAB to how to handle this database.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. So are there any further questions from the participants or any comments from the ad hoc working group members? If you have anything. It seems no. Okay. So again, this recorded video and also the materials that Fredrik shared during this webinar will be also available in our IMU website. So please visit our website tomorrow or day after tomorrow, then you can see all the data in the website. And Pim already shared the link to the questionnaire in the chat box. So if you can see the chat box right now, then you can immediately can access to the link to the questionnaire. And if Frederick, do you have any further comments or on this simulated databases?
Just that any suggestions, ideas, what you think about is welcome to this working group. We are in the middle of the process to find out the details of this, to handle this in a web interface and the review process and the exercise description. And any ideas are or suggestions are of course welcome. And you could send it to any one of us, and yeah, you will see. You can see the name and the university at the beginning of the presentation. So that means I think that you could find our email addresses, and I can add that before we send out. I could add the email addresses as well, so it'd be easy to just send your comments or suggestions to us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And actually, again, this project has been just coming from the outcome of the organizational development project. So we just sent out the call for application of that project in November. The deadline for the application is the end of the January next year. So we are also welcoming that your application for the organizational development project. Maybe your project, maybe in the future, can be working group or any other, for the project. So we very much welcome your application for organizational development project as well. So I think there is no further questions. So again, the recorded the video and also the materials will be available in our website. So please visit our website after the webinar. And again, as Frederick mentioned, that we are very much welcome your suggestions and a real interest, showing the interest to join this project. So please take a few minutes to take a survey and also take a look at our the project itself. Okay, so if you don't have any further comments, then maybe we can conclude this webinar. So Frederick, are you okay with that?
I'm perfectly okay with that. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this webinar.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you very much again for joining our webinar. So we plan to organize this kind of the webinar again in the future. So please join us again in the future. So have a nice day and also see you again for the next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.